What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber. We are going to be talking a little baseball today. We got football coming up. Actually, I'm saying baseball first, and we talked beforehand. I think I said we were going to do the showdown first, but we can do showdown after baseball if that's okay with you, Sheets. Is that all right, or do you want to do showdown now?
Oh, sure. Okay. You called an audible on me as far as
I accidentally audible. I just came out of the wrong words came out of my mouth.
Nah, that's totally fine.
This is what's going to happen this time of year. We got a lot of sports going on, which is really, really fun.
I can do that.
So we'll jump over to MLB, and then we're going to release another video shortly. Guys, reminder, I have all my plays and picks up on truedfs.com. I also attached my exact ownerships for, I will do it for the main slate. I've done it for the showdown slate. So check that out. It's a month free if you sign up right now, but I have literally my exact ownership percentages of each player and captain, et cetera. And they're all under my ownership percentages on our site. We have sheets and sheets.
Well, I would also like to correct you for a second, just so that they don't get the wrong idea. Just remember that this is an early look. So when Bobby says my ownership projections are up on the site, that does not mean that that's who he's necessarily going to be owning in his actual lineups.
Well, it does to some extent though, because
okay.
like for my football one right tonight, I mean, I don't think we're going to have a lot of late scratches or anything like that, but it's got right now. It's got my exact ownership, my build on that I used for my mass entry on DraftKings. I'm sorry, on Roto Grinders using Lineup HQ over there. So we're good to go, and it's probably worth taking a look if you guys want. Sheets, by the way, has been crushing it with MLB, which is why I naturally want to start with it. I've been doing really well at MLB. I haven't won the big one. I finished 5th in the Monster last night with 1 entry, and that would have been nice. Sheets was close with a bunch of them. So yeah, man, it's been a good little run here, but we need to take down the big one. Maybe we can do it tonight.
That's where you ended up, by the way, in the Monster, 5th.
I ended up 5th. I needed one more home. I needed another home run from Chapman, and I could have gotten it, but
okay.
I was right around there. I just didn't quite get anything quite right.
Okay.
Anyway, so let's pull up your screen and we'll go game by game for tonight's slate.
So first public, not even PSA, whatever it is watch out for the different start times tonight, because DraftKings, their main slate starts at 6:40, and FanDuel's a little bit later. So just make sure you don't get shut out unless you want to get shut out, in which case, yeah. So I think the things that the DraftKings is using the Met game, right? That's the difference.
That's a big difference too, because that's probably going to be the most important pitcher we talk about, and I'll touch on FanDuel in a little bit because I do have some takes over there.
Oh, nice.
All right, so what do you think? So this game is hard for me to find a ton of interest in hitting. I don't mind, look, it's a small slate. If you want to make an argument for stacking the Mets up or playing the cheap Miami guys, I think Brinson at 2,100 would probably be my favorite. But I think that your best bet would be to take, I like the Baez-Alonso combination. Those are 2 guys who I'm considering potentially playing today, because I do think the ownership will be fairly low on them. I think Luzardo's a decent enough pitcher, but I'm a little bit interested in those 2 Met bats specifically. And you could even throw Pilar in to get a little 3-man complementary stack, but this is not my favorite game to target. I do think Stroman is the best pitching option on the slate. I will probably be playing him in my main lineup, but I don't mind if there's a couple other routes you want to go. And of course, we can't use him on FanDuel, so that opens things up. I also think Luzardo, if he does in fact get as low owned as early projections have him, he's an awesome tournament play. The kid's talented. We got a little bit of a glimpse of it, a couple starts ago. There's a high risk, high reward, which is what you want on these slates. And I think Luzardo and Stroman are in play, but I'm definitely more interested in Stroman at the moment.
The way the slate is stacking up for me, at least now, it is an interesting slate from a gambling perspective, because I do have 5 basically 5 pitchers, all pretty much even for me with respect to value. So if any of them is going to end up just garnering a bunch of ownership, for me, whoever that is going to be an easy fade. And if any one of them shows up to be much lower owned than the others, for me, it's going to be an easy one to play. And Stroman, I do have as one of the 5 pitchers that I like. I feel as though, because it's in Miami, that I would imagine he's going to be pretty high owned. The other thing I look at, by the way, this Toronto Yankee game, it happens to be raining here right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Some concerns.
Yeah, definitely concerns. And on a 5-game slate, that's always it doubles the impact of it.
If people are, this is a great example. We'll get to that game in a minute, but I actually think this is because of the way this slate is. It might be a game we want to target either pitchers or hitters because, especially if people come off of it because of the weather. So I actually think this is an interesting spot where I'm willing to take some shots, even if I think it's only 50-50 to play, because it's so hard to get different on this slate as it is. That's just my personal first look take.
Yeah. So, but I don't like any of the hitting in that game, by the way, of the Mets in the Mets Miami game. For me, it's either both pitchers, neither pitcher, or just nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do have interest in both pitchers.
Yeah, I definitely think that one thing I like to do is to try and get one of these low. There's talent in Sanchez and Brinson, and I mentioned the Alonso Baez. And just because they're going to be low owned on a small slate, I'm going to have some interest there. But I'm not playing a ton of lineups. Still going to try and get some exposure to those guys because it's going to be hard to get low ownership on pretty much anybody today. All right, let's talk about Colorado and Philadelphia. Ranger Suarez and Senzatella. Okay, so I am probably not going to play Senzatella, but he fits the same sort of mold as Luzardo for me. I actually don't understand why he would be completely unowned on a slate this small. But that's what I've got for him right now. And this is a guy who doesn't sound like much, but put up double digits 4 games in a row. Remember, he pitches in Colorado. Yep. Even put up 27 against the Dodgers on the road 2 starts ago. Put up 16 against Atlanta, a very tough team. I think this game has a little bit of weather concerns also. Ranger Suarez, I think, is going to have some ownership. I don't think Senzatella is going to have any. And I'm just going to say on this kind of slate is the time I would consider using him. So he's on my list right now. But again, these guys are not priorities. And then for the hitting in this game, I think you're going to see some ownership on Philly. And I am very happy to just not play any of that chalk ownership. I would have more interest in the Rockies bats at very low ownership. Namely, Trevor Story would be an awesome play to me at 4,900. So that's what I've got for this game. How about you?
Yeah, I have no interest in Philly at all here. So if they're going to be chalky, good for them. I like Suarez a little bit on. Believe it, I like Suarez on DraftKings. I also like him on FanDuel. Mm-hmm. Colorado is just the worst. And so I do like Suarez a decent amount. Again, but as I mentioned before, if he ends up getting all that ownership, then I don't have to play him. I don't have to play anybody tonight, honestly. But I do like Suarez. I literally don't have a shred of interest in Philly. So for me, it's Suarez and that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Garrett Hampson's really cheap. I'll just mention that. I think he'll be the one Rocky that gets a little bit of ownership. But I kind of have a little bit of interest in just a little bit of, maybe Crone, Story, Rogers, Hampson. Not necessarily all 4. I'm not going to stack them. But I do think that their run total is a little bit low. And I think that there is still an opportunity for them here. Suarez can get wild. Philly's bullpen has been very shaky at times. They go sort of up and down. So I just think there's, we got to sort of consider everything on these slates. We can't just say, okay, well, we're going to play these chalk guys and go with it. So. All right, let's get over to KC Baltimore. I think this is an interesting game on every level, actually. I think Carlos Hernandez, this is the kind of play I would use on a large slate. I'd like to play him here. The problem is he's going to be really popular, which makes me want to try and take a shot with some of the Baltimore bats. And I actually prefer Means to Hernandez. I will say it over and over again. John Means is a good real-life pitcher. And that's good enough for 7,100 on this slate for me. So I have Means as probably my natural starting SP2 ahead of Hernandez because of the ownership in part. How about you for the pitching?
So I'll go through this whole game a little bit here. I mean, I watched that last night's game because, again, I had those KC guys. And I'll tell you, man, when you get to the bullpens of some of these teams, I mean, it is a freaking clown show, and it was 4-0, Minor, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, maybe Minor will get his win bonus, whatever it is. Dude, it's not even relevant what happens in the first 6 innings in these games, it's like ridiculous. And then it was like 7-0 or something, and then, or whatever it was. Actually, it was 5-0. And then Baltimore just hit single after single, double after double. And then the bases were loaded and the game, they were going to get out of it. And they, I don't know if you saw this, but they hit a lazy fly ball to right field. And Dozier was just standing there calling it, and then freaking Olivares came and basically body blocked him and the ball landed in the outfield. And
Oh
the
my
home run
goodness.
scored.
I
And
didn't
then
see it.
Moncastle came in free and hit a home run. But fine for me on FanDuel. And then, like, just when you thought that they were going to somehow keep Salvador Perez from hitting a home run, nope, bullpen comes in, he hits one. Benintendi just destroys a ball in the 8th inning off this bullpen. I mean, so and this is true batting practice, like both of these freaking teams. So for me, I think all four prongs of this game is completely in play. I think Means is in play. I think Hernandez is in play. I certainly think that KC is in play. And I certainly think that Baltimore is in play. I think all four prongs of this game can be played in this slate.
I agree. I think in terms of priorities for me, I like getting like a little Baltimore stack, specifically Stuart Hayes, Jamal Jones, and I mean, look, you can include anybody here, all of them, but Jamal Jones and Mateo are all like cheap, won't be crazy high owned. They'll have ownership, but they're not going to be crazy high owned. And I kind of like the idea of picking on Hernandez because he's a good pitcher. He's been really good, but again, the bullpen is terrible, and we're talking about a very small sample size of him being good. So I'm willing to take some shots with Baltimore. I think KC ends up. People just love to stack against Means every time and all that. And he gives us some home runs, but you're going to have really chalky Salvador Perez. And for, I can't say it's not for good reason. This guy just hits a home run every day.
Every day.
And you've got, you're going to get a high owned Adalberto Mondesi. I don't think Santana and Witt are going to be particularly high owned. So that would be the route I would look to go. And then people don't like to play Benintendi in the lefty. I'm very happy to go ahead and play Benintendi or play the bottom of the KC order if I was going to make that stack. But as of right now, I have all of these as complementary stacks because sadly, the chalky stack I like so much better than every other stack. I don't even have them as close. I actually think there's a good chance they score twice as many runs as anybody on the slate.
Today?
Atlanta. I think that about Atlanta.
Okay. You like Atlanta that much more than Toronto?
I like Toronto too, but I prefer Atlanta. And I'll just tell you right now, after the first glimpse of this Toronto Yankee game, my natural, pivoting over, my natural instinct is two things. One, I would like to bet the over in this game, so I will, because I think it's too low. You do have an extreme pitchers umpire, one of the best, and it's funny for me to say that because now I'm going to argue for the pitchers, but we don't have a bunch of a slate. If no one's going to play Jose Barrios in this spot against the Yankee team that strikes out with all the power, with all the things they've got, Barrios, you could argue, I don't even think it's actually that arguable. I think he's actually the best pitcher maybe going forward on this slate. And you're not going to get anybody owning Nestor Cortez that much either, which both these guys have the same K-prop that Stroman does. Barrios has better strikeout stuff. I'll take the over on his 5.5 strikeouts as one of my bets of the day as well. I think Barrios is a fantastic tournament play. He's currently my pitcher in my main lineup on FanDuel because to get a low-owned guy against a Yankee team that strikes out, I'm just going to take these shots. I don't care about the power. Give up a couple home runs, strike out 7 in 5 innings, and that'll be or 6 innings maybe. That'll be good enough. I really like Barrios here, and I do like the Toronto bats a lot more than I like the Yankees personally.
I'll tell you though, that was legendary. I mean, we're usually I try to do this every once in a while, and I'm getting really good at it, but not quite as expert. Bobby didn't even mean to do this. That transition into this next game was just so freaking seamless. I mean, how did you do that? Like normally that's not your style. Normally like, okay, you want to go on to this next game. And I try to transition. That was like so perfect. I was talking about something completely different. And then you got right into this Yankee game and completely in contest. I thought that was freaking legendary. We're getting to be pretty decent at this, I think. I don't know.
I think so too.
But yeah, so the Toronto Yankee game, I haven't consulted. Listen, I know Roth is really good, but I haven't consulted the true New York weather expert, and that'll be Mrs. Sheets.
Oh, right.
She's the only one who's going to tell me for sure when the game's going to be played tonight. That's like the only one.
Well, you're gonna have to let me know and I have to put it in Discord or something because you're not going to be around later. So I gotta make sense of that.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be around later.
Oh, you are great. Okay,
yeah, today I'm going to be around. But yeah, so the Toronto game, I do have Toronto as a top one of the top 2 stacks on both sites, DraftKings and FanDuel. Obviously, Atlanta is the other one, and didn't quite get to the Yankees. With respect to the pitching, I didn't quite have it in me to get to either Cortez or Barrios, but I'm certainly willing to listen. And And I actually do approach these weather games a little differently than you do. And partially, I guess, it's because of laziness, but it seems to have been working out for me so far.
Sure.
In that I just exit, you know, and you know, I certainly understand the logic behind, well, taking a shot if it's 50-50 because of, you know, the upside for some your team like Toronto, whatever it is that high or whatever it is. But I again, there's no right way or wrong way. I just like exiting. It just makes my life easier.
I'm okay with it makes perfect sense to me. Like, I mean, my only issue is that there's only 4 games on FanDuel today. Right. So that would make it 3. There's only 5 on DraftKings, and you might get lower ownership because of the weather. Those are all my arguments for it. But I definitely, I mean, on a big slate, I wouldn't be talking much about this game at all. I do think that even on a big slate, though, I think I would take some shots on Barrios at 0 ownership. I really think there's enough upside for him there. And of course, it could work out horribly for me. But I just believe in him still as a pitcher. And I don't think that, I mean, I think I could argue about his stuff versus Stroman's. They're really close as being the best pitchers on the slate. So. And no one's going to play him. All right, let's get to Washington and Atlanta. I really, Inoa is going to be really popular as well. He's going to be probably the 3rd highest owned pitcher on DraftKings, and probably, I don't know, maybe number 1 on FanDuel. It'll be close, but I think there's a really good argument. So Inoa's given up at least a home run in basically. He averages about a home run per every 6 innings based on his last number of starts. That's not incredibly high, but it's, you know, it's something. No one's gonna like. I love Atlanta, but I want to start real quick with just saying on the Washington side, you're going to get no ownership on arguably the best hitter on this slate outside of Vladimir Guerrero and Juan Soto. So I would try to, you know, maybe use some of that other value that we talked about and try and make sure to get him in. Try to get some Josh Bell exposure. These guys are still hitting. And then you could even argue for like a mini stack with some of the cheap options here with Lane Thomas and Carter Kieboom. I know we're talking about arguing, you know, I'm talking about a lot of different plays, but that's how you approach these slates, in my opinion. And you also don't need to fully stack either on these kind of slates. I think Soto as a one-off at low ownership, he'll have some ownership by the end of the day, but I think that's just a fantastic play. So that's what I've got for Washington. I have Atlanta so much better than I have everybody else. I don't even think it's close. I've been the one actually lately who sort of got on to playing a little bit of Fetty in general because he's had some really soft matchups. I don't like him in this matchup. I don't think there's a chance that he's going to, you know, be relevant enough to play. And Atlanta has high ownership, but one thing you can do to get different is try just play the bottom of the lineup. Skip Freddie Freeman. Skip Albies actually maybe, and who's going to be more popular. Play the Riley, Swanson, Peterson, and then figure out the other pieces from there. I really like Atlanta tonight. There'll be 3 players from Atlanta probably in all my lineups. So I am, you know, it's the same thing we said about San Francisco the other day when they're playing in Coors. Like, if I like the chalk, I'm not gonna fade off of it. I'm just gonna find different ways to do it. And I do think Swanson ends up fairly low owned because of his price. And I think Jock Peterson or Eddie Rosario, whichever one it ends up being tonight, will be low owned as well. So that's what I'm doing with Atlanta. I'm making sure to try and include at least one of those guys where I'm stacking them, unless I'm using Barrios.
Yeah. What do you like about the other? How about the other side of the game? You like Washington?
I love Soto. I love Soto and Bell especially, and I think there's some value you could squeeze in for a 3-man, like I said, with Yadiel Hernandez, Lane Thomas, and Carter Kieboom.
Yeah, I'm getting to Washington as kind of a secondary piece, both on DraftKings and on FanDuel. Mm-hmm. And I right now, yeah, as you mentioned, I have Atlanta as my top stack too. And I will also say that I will say what you said is that Fetty has had some good games. But as you also accurately pointed out, they've been in soft matchups, you know. Mm-hmm. So and Atlanta's been, I mean, it's kind of awesome that they've been able to do this with Acuna on the bench, right? On the shelf. So yeah, I definitely feel as though Atlanta is the top option as well.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where I'm at. So just in terms of the ways builds go today on both sides, actually, what I might start off like on DraftKings, I might just say, okay, well, I'll play Atlanta, but I'm going to start my lineups with, you know, Pete Alonso, Javi Baez, Juan Soto, and then maybe one cheap bat from Baltimore, and then I'll put in 4 Atlanta players. That's a route I'm considering going, just because I like these individual bats that aren't going to be played much, and I can still play my chalky stack with maybe three to four guys less than 10%. And then I'll also have one of Swanson, or whether it be Peterson or Rosario as my other guy. I think that you can get different enough on this slate by doing that while maintaining the stack you like and making it a 4-man instead of a 5-man, even though I agree about 5 being in, you know, like 5 makes a lot more sense on bigger slates to me. On the smaller slates, I think you really can get more creative. And I think that trying to do that with Atlanta is what I'm going to do, because it's just hard for me not to play them in what I see as being so much better of a spot than anyone else's.
Let me ask you another question about this slate. And I always ask this about smaller slates, but let's push the envelope a little bit. Do you think that a 5-game slate, or more specifically this 5-game slate, is one where you could play hitters against pitchers, or not quite small enough?
I think it's okay if they're cheap with maybe power upside. I don't really see anybody who's desperately screaming to you can run on me. I guess you could. No, really, there's nobody who I really think you want to run on that much. I think you could do it maybe with 1 bat, potentially 2, but I don't think you need to. Depends on how you're going to build, but I really, it's right on the borderline. I thought about this a lot. It's right on the borderline for me. So I would say maybe 1 bat. I don't think you can go more than 1 though.
Okay.
Not like this early slate would you have, which is so bad I can barely even think about it. It only has 2 games where you definitely have to use somebody against your pitcher. But yeah, so that's where I'm at over there. And then on FanDuel, I think that what you do is with your builds, try to play the guys who people don't want to play on DraftKings somewhat. It's a little trickier over there because it's not like you're gonna get like crazy low ownership on some of the same bats I've even mentioned, because it's only 4 games, so you lower it. I think maybe the idea is to get some Washington over on FanDuel, who I think gets overlooked, and you get the leverage against Anoa as well. So I like that as being sort of a sleeper thing. I think Juan Soto is got to be more owned than he's currently projected, because
it's a small slate. I mean, he's got to get some ownership.
I know, but I'm looking at these are just bad projections. I think they're just too early in the day. But I really like the Soto Bell combination, especially on FanDuel.
Okay. So yeah, it is definitely a small slate, but you know, hey, they're still giving a lot of money away, and I'm still playing it. So
exactly, we've had some luck with these small slates. You know, we've gotten weird in some spots and done some of the right things, and I think we talked about some of those. So we'll be with them at lock. So we want to do lock at 6 Eastern.
Yes, we could do lock at 6 Eastern. Should we go a little earlier or no?
Maybe, yeah, you know what, let's today, since the way it is, let's go 5:45 Eastern, just so we can hear a little bit about the weather. But actually the truth is, it doesn't really matter for me. Let's do it. If you want to do earlier, we could do earlier, but I think 6 Eastern actually makes some sense, because we can go up to lock, and then we still have the weather to find out about. It's not really going to affect the first game all that much, what happens in New York, I don't think.
Okay.
Which is the Mets game, because obviously the game's in a dome. All right, guys. So yeah, just one real quick recap. Barrios to get off the board. Main pitcher is going to be the chalk in Stroman. I don't mind the Luzardo, Senzatella options. I like the one-offs of Alonso, Baez, maybe a little 2-man, I guess you could call that. Story, Soto, Sanchez, and Brinson, who I expect all of them to be very low owned. And just in the long run, we're going to be looking back and saying, well, we're playing Peters, you know, at 20% over Sanchez and Brinson at 2%. There's a lot more talent in those guys from an all-around perspective, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with playing that. Just immediately making that switch and get 2% ownership instead of 20%. So that's one thing I'm considering doing. All right, we'll get out of here, and good luck to everybody tonight. And we will see you guys in a few minutes, because we'll be recording another video. Good luck, everybody.
Sounds good.